Hello, welcome back to the Pandemic People podcast. My name is David Roman and I'm your host. This is part 2 of a 2-part series on pandemic entertainment. My next guest comes from a place that in the film industry we like to call Hollywood North. I'm talking about Vancouver, Canada, of course. If you watch film and television, you've probably seen something shot in Vancouver. It is one of the busiest film industries in the entire world. And my next guest works in that industry. Well, at least he did before the pandemic started. Things have grinded to an absolute halt in the film industry, in the entire world. And really, we're going to run out of original content pretty soon. That's why we have content creators like myself trying to fill that gap for you. But it's really not the same as going to a theater and sitting down with a bunch of people, munching popcorn and watching a giant budget film. My next guest is going to talk a little bit about his life in Vancouver and the film industry in general. Here we go. Well, I'm sitting down here with Rob Hillstead from Vancouver, BC. Originally from Saskatchewan. I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to let him introduce himself. So, Rob, tell us about yourself. Who are you? What are you doing?
Well, my name is Rob Hillstead. I am a friend of Dave's for many, many, many years.
Many years. Too many years.
I am a filmmaker / industrial lighting technician that lives out in Burnaby, BC. I work in the film industry here. Primarily on big budget television shows as a lighting tech, but I moonlight as a documentary filmmaker as well.
Right. And I will make a correction there. I know we all say Vancouver over here, like everything is Vancouver over there, but you're in Burnaby, which is it a suburb of Vancouver? Maybe explain that to the listeners.
Yeah, fair enough. Burnaby is the suburb of Vancouver and kind of like the hub of where all the studios and stuff are for
right. Yes, we're checking in on Hollywood North. That was my plan, as they call it, right? So
we were in before this happened, it was the biggest boom we've ever had, making the most money the city's ever had, and
right.
So this is a unprecedented shock.
Yeah. Well, it's if you watch movies, television, almost anything these days, you're bound to see Vancouver on something. Like it seems like. It's almost kind of funny that some of these films, that are shooting in similar locations, and you can almost pick it out every time now. It's like, oh, there's Vancouver again, because there's just so much shooting.
Vancouver, yeah, it always plays other cities.
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about what were you working on before the pandemic in terms of whether it's documentary stuff or TV shows or whatever you were doing. Tell us a little bit about
that. Yeah. So, I mean, before this hit, I was on vacation.
Oh, right. Yes.
We just finished up a pilot for the Mighty Ducks with Disney, I think.
That's right.
And I went to Mexico for a week. Distant idle threat, or so I thought. And came back to the whole industry globally shutting down. The production element anyway, like where you have a crew and actors getting together and filming stuff, that stuff all ended with all these restrictions instantly.
Right. Yeah. It seemed like I watched on the internet, in some of the groups I'm in with film, and it was just like domino effect. Hey, it was like, oh, now mine's canceled. Now mine's canceled. Now mine's, it was just crazy. Like everywhere. It was just boom, 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 boom. So many things just stopping. Right.
Yeah. I mean, our community of technicians is pretty tight on like Facebook and stuff like that. So you could watch it happen, and people were very surprised. Like 3 days earlier, they wouldn't have guessed that would ever happen. And then all of a sudden it was like, there was an actor that couldn't fly because of the restrictions, and the studios all sort of got together and decided that it was time. Some shows did actually still try to finish up. I remember looking that there were 2 or 3 where they were on their last day of shooting, so that they did 1 or 2 more days. But it was just to finish off, and then it was done.
Awesome. So, and then at least, I'm glad they did this is what I'm trying to say, I guess. I know as someone who's worked in film before, sometimes they kind of push the limits of safety and things like that. Right. So, I'm really glad that people reacted very quickly, to what was going on, as hard as it was to do.
And I mean, again, unprecedented, because usually this kinds of when these types of events that cause a production to shut down happen, they're insurable, and it's usually because of certain reasons. And it's not the first time in the past that the industry has suffered and shut down or been drastically reduced, but it is the first time it's been taken to zero.
Right. Are there still some, obviously live set stuff isn't really happening. Is there anything happening at all? Like, besides post work, like I'm thinking like, are animation studios doing stuff, or are there small things being shot in any nature, or what's going on over there?
I'm not aware of anything in Vancouver being shot that it requires more than 1 or 2 people.
Okay.
News, of course, and I have a feeling there are people that are doing sort of podcasts similar to yourself, and little sort of independent stuff. And times like these breed innovation when it comes to and film. So I'm sure that there's a lot of filmmakers out there bored with time, with lots of time on their hands, and doing things that are unique and interesting, and I hope safe.
So having actually following from that, that's a perfect segue into this next question. What has this done for your creativity then? If you're at home all day and you have all this time now, have you found it easier to start working on some stuff? I know obviously working in a set, sometimes your own stuff gets pushed aside, right? So, or has it been even harder because, your family's home all day and it's kind of psychologically draining to be at home all day? Like, how have you found that transition? Have you been able to be creative?
Yeah, it's been difficult for the creativity element. I must say, this isn't the first time that I've had time off from my career as a lighting tech. But this is the first time where it's indefinite and there is no foreseeable outcomes. So it's very stressful, and I have to say that creativity requires focus, at least for me, especially with a lot of the technical stuff, and time. And so time is funny when you're quarantined, is that it both goes super fast and is super slow.
Doesn't it?
So you have this sensation that there's lots of time left to do stuff all the time. However, I fill my day. I don't spend a lot of time sitting around doing nothing, but I have a baby, I have a young girl, I have a wife, I have finances to deal with, I have career decisions to make, I have all these things that prevent me from just sitting down and losing myself in my work as I have in the past.
Right.
So I do find it quite hard to get inspired, I guess, by the wrong kind of pressure. The pressure is it's not a deadline so much as it is still kind of crisis survival mode.
Right. And and kind of the ironic part about that, I think, when it comes to, I guess, what we do with creative work and film is, there is kind of always that survival mode feeling that's happening all the time. But usually it's not about, will I catch a virus and all these things happening. Quite often it's like about, geez, I got to get this deadline done, or when's the next paycheck coming, or things like that. So, yeah, I guess, even with, I guess what I'm saying is you've probably had some experience trying to navigate some of those feelings and emotions, but do you find that what's happening now is just a much bigger version of that, I guess?
I think so. And I think maybe I have more at stake, I guess, with kids. So when I've been in this situation before, it's just been myself to worry about and my wife, and we're pretty crafty people. But now it's like, well, I also have the pressure of making sure that I don't fail the kids as well, right? And that, kind of, to use that word is a funny Freudian thing, that it's the first thing I go to, because even though this is not my fault, obviously,
right? Yeah.
It still feels like a little bit like I could have been better off, better prepared, or should have seen it coming. Sometimes irrational feelings, right?
Oh yeah, no, and definitely, like as you say, I don't think anybody could have seen this far into the future with their career and said, hey, I need to adjust everything, and now I'm gonna be ready for this pandemic. I know some people definitely step away from creative fields and take on day jobs to have some stability and things like that. But kind of carrying from that, living in Vancouver, I guess, with the cost of living that's there and all those things, Obviously, working on a film set is much more manageable financially than sitting and working at a day job, right? So, what has happened financially then in terms of the film industry being compensated for all these losses? There's a lot of people who are unemployed who are making pretty decent wages, living in a very expensive climate, right? So, is what the government's offering helpful? Is anything else being done? What's going on?
Yeah, there are resources. I mean, that's that part. I mean, that's good. Like the government CERB will gets most of the people at the EI that EI doesn't in our field.
Oh, good.
Except the amount of money. While I mean, it seems like $2,000 is a lot a month. When your rent's $2,000, that's just one component of it, right? Or mortgage, right? So I mean, it is not enough. Even with the reduced standard of living, I expect that many people in the technicians will have to resort to, taking on more debt or
right,
going into RRSPs or whatever they can to stay afloat. So no matter what, everyone is taking big losses.
Right. And just to clarify for our listeners, the CERB is the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, and our government is offering $2,000 a month to. Well, there's some qualifications around it, and they keep changing it, keep editing it, but generally speaking, most people who lost work are getting $2,000 a month. I guess why I wanted to ask you that specifically, just being in Vancouver, because I know the experience here in Regina when it comes to cost of living is drastically different, not even just a little bit different. Having said that, even here, people are finding it hard to manage on what they're getting through that. So I can't even imagine, like you say, your rent is $2,000 in Vancouver, and I guess would you consider the area you live in a little less expensive, or kind of what's the cost? Yeah. What's living like in Burnaby? Burnaby
is not the high cost of downtown Vancouver living.
Okay.
I think rents are like a third of it. Maybe a little closer together. I'm not sure.
Right.
But I live amongst many mansions here. I'm not in a mansion. I rent. So what I have is a very good deal in terms relative to the market. 3-bedroom apartment with a backyard, with a couple parking spaces across from a forest park.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty sweet. So, but and to try and get something that I'm paying specifically $1,850 a month for, you can't even get that now. The prices have gone up. If I were to try to get this place again, it would be more like $2,200, $2,300. If you wanted to live in Vancouver, also same thing. Prices jump. You'd be paying $2,000, $2,100 for a 1-bedroom studio. Right. It's ridiculous.
Well, and I wonder if through all of this, if they're going to actually lower the rents in places like that, considering that no one's going to be able to afford anything, right? I don't know I guess we don't know how long this is going to go on for, but maybe it'll have an unintended impact on the housing market that makes it more manageable again. I'm not sure. What do you think about that?
Well, real estate's definitely not my high
I suppose not. Hey,
knowledge, but I hope it does.
Yeah.
Because things are so inflated, out of range of the middle class. I read a really wonderful article about lawyers and doctors being unable to afford houses.
Oh wow!
So how the hell is somebody who's in the working class supposed to find a place to live their whole life rather than just wasting money in rent?
Right. Right.
Don't choose this. It's
okay.
Very difficult.
Well, speaking of home life and the house, I guess I wanted to move a little bit away from your professional life and talk a little bit about how are things going. I mean, I guess the big thing is for me, I think about film professionals, are away from home a lot. That's one of the big things. When you're working on set, you're gone for, sometimes months at a time. How has it been doing the complete opposite now? Is there some positive to that? Has there been, how has the adjustment been?
Yeah, I mean, I was complaining about my creative life a little bit, and in reality, that's just you become priorities sort of take over in situations like this, and I prioritize my family. So I have a 4-month-old baby, which is pretty entertaining to
Yes.
to have, and a 3.5-year-old daughter. So my kids definitely are the silver lining on this cloud. That it's definitely not all bad.
Right.
This is the most I've been around my family in years, and it's a very good time to be. So trying to keep positive in that way.
Yes.
Maybe some of the I guess the less important stuff in terms of long-term manageability, I think kind of fade away.
Right.
So.
And I mean, I guess have the kids themselves, have you noticed like behavior wise, they're just super happy to have you around kind of thing too? Like, are they, well, I guess your baby.
The baby, has no idea what's going on. Everything's great. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Even even Lily, the 3.5-year-old, really, she's confused as to why we can't go to the park, why she can't see any of her friends, why she can't, she had programs and daycare and all these social things, and now all of a sudden it's just like cut off, and all we do is talk to people on the computer now. So she's definitely, I think, acutely aware of that there's something going on, but I'm not sure if she really comprehends the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
Pretty sure she doesn't, which is good. And we're not trying to scare her either by telling her that there's a disease going around right now.
Right. But
at the same time, you want your kid to understand that you're not just being mean by not letting them go to the park. You know,
right.
It is actually, it's a bit of a minefield to navigate, trying to keep your kid not sheltered, but I guess she's too young to manage this stuff anyway. So I don't want to inadvertently give her childhood trauma of how, because of it, because this is potentially traumatic experience for other people.
Yeah. Well, and and that I think kind of segues into my next idea here, that with the entertainment industry itself, I mean, that there's a perfect example of that, trying to mitigate the trauma that some of these kids are going through. That they need entertainment, right? They need things to distract them, things to make them feel good and feel positive. And when you're at home all day, every day, you kind of run out of those things. So I guess in terms of your mindset with this, what kind of role do you think entertainment is playing in this pandemic, or how important is it, or will this change the role of it?
Well, I mean, entertainment's always going to have a big role in our mental health, capacity anyway. I think as a mild form of escapism, you can get out of your house by watching this. So I mean, in the acute sense, in the immediate moment, it's very good therapy.
Right.
So that said, depends what kind of entertainment you're watching, because there are many types of entertainment that, in my opinion, will make you nothing but unhappy. I've been spending my time taking this psychology of wellness class that a professor from Yale has made available for free on Coursera. It's like an app. And it's kind of snapped my attention to the factors that sort of create happiness, and then some that make you unhappy, and things that so examining social media and entertainment as both purveyors of happiness but also detractors. Right. So to go back to your question about entertainment, it's if you're watching the Kardashians. And you are looking at it in a socially comparative mode, that will make you nothing but unhappy, whether you're making fun of them or not, because you are consciously or unconsciously comparing your life to theirs. So, I mean, movies have a tendency of always showing people in great financial situations and unrealistic and often romanticized lifestyles.
Right.
And that can be damaging, I think, for some people, whether they mean it to be or not.
I think especially right now, considering nobody's leaving their house and nobody's living any kind of lifestyle right now, like how maybe it makes people yearn for that a bit more, but
yeah, exactly. And a yearning. I mean, this course sort of like talks about how if savoring is a way of being happy, savoring what you're doing. So watching things over and over again, stuff like that, savoring the moment, savoring a travel show that you enjoy or an actor that you're in love with or whatever. Like you have these ways of sort of savoring happy moments with entertainment too, right?
Right.
It's not all bad, but one has to be conscious of what they do to you. The media message, as Marshall McLuhan would say.
Yes.
And making sure you're consciously, you're not on fucking episode 30 of the autopsy files, like certain things that maybe now is a bad time to watch that kind of show,
Yeah. Oh, I totally relate to that. Yeah, I'm the kind of person who's always enjoyed post-apocalyptic programming. I've somehow kept watching Walking Dead even when it's terrible. And now I'm finding I don't have a lot of desire to watch anything like that. I'm just like, no, we're living in a post-apocalyptic type scenario. I don't really need to experience that in media form every day. Yeah.
So I mean, entertainment, crucial role in escapism, and maybe you learn something. Likely not, but we're gonna do it anyway because we're addicted.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Well, one of the things that I think is really interesting, and you kind of alluded to this earlier in the discussion, is our technology that we have now, and kind of the innovation we have with film and media and these things has allowed us through this scenario to still have tons of access. Whereas, I think if we grew up in the 90s, you'd have to go to the rental store to grab a movie. You'd have to go to a rental store to grab a game, on and on and on as physical media everywhere. And that would have been a totally different experience. Even just how we stay connected now is all so simple, right? There's just so much technology around us. So then kind of thinking about that, do you think, is this going to have a really permanent lasting effect on industries like yours, like the film industry, or are we going to want to come back to those big budget productions now? I know, I mean, just giving the context of this a little bit, theaters aren't really showing anything except for big Marvel movies, it seems these days, when it comes to money making. So yeah, how do you feel? How is this going to impact that, do you think?
Certain things I think will stay the same. I still think the big studios will still retain their power, and in fact, their spending power will probably be what saves them.
Right.
Independence will likely suffer in the outset of it, but at the same time, like this stuff, this culture shall rebuild. I mean,
sure.
It is a trickle down effect with filmmaking, where if you've got big budget films, that often has a tendency to finance or at least support the smaller independent productions, either through networking of crew and cast members, or literally a blending of gear and technical knowledge of how to make it. So I mean, I think that the big budget studios will suffer the chunk of time that's lost, and I think there will be some recovery time after that even. But I read an article about Atlanta, Georgia, and they're sitting there ready to fire up again on the 1st of June.
Oh gosh. Wow.
Like if stuff is relaxed and laws are relaxed and they're allowed to have gatherings of more than 50 people in one place, they'll start up again. Now, as you say, has that changed our industry forever? I think maybe not forever, but certainly one other thing will change, and that is the consciousness of our personal hygienic habits and our collective hygienic habits as a film set and a workplace. Because I mean, their film sets are just notorious for a bug or a virus or a cold or an illness going around. Everybody gets it, right? Like it happened 2 times on the last show I was on, where it's like, oh, that person's got the sniffles. 1 week later, everybody does. So
and then you're shutting down.
You're in tight quarters. You share food, like craft service, they call it, where everybody convenes in one place and puts their grubby hands on everything together. And,
Yeah. Having worked in sound, I mean, I have to like touch people's bodies all the time and be in their close personal space when you're miking them, right? You're always putting body mics on them. It's always the most awkward experience ever, no matter how much you're used to it.
Yes, but I mean, you sort of, after a while, you don't care about that kind of, about the hygienic aspect, not so much the awkwardness, that never goes away, but the hygienic, like making sure we're all, I think wearing masks is probably going to be something that goes forward. We might have to be getting our temperature taken at the start of the day. We might have to only go in shifts, have 2 shifts where a group of 50 people come in, and if someone gets sick, you can replace that shift. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of adjustment, right?
Yeah. If the international rules don't relax, actors won't be able to fly in and out, and directors and executives won't be able to fly in and out. So that makes scheduling very difficult and could be a deterrent to anybody wanting to work. So even though I think that everybody's ready and willing to go back to work with this new sort of mandate, we're all at the whim of the government agencies when it comes to this kind of stuff, and ultimately how difficult it will be to logistically continue without a vaccine and without any change in the public health element. So Atlanta might be sitting there ready to go in June, and there's a backlog of 18 months of booking stuff that are all sort of pushed behind. But that doesn't mean that anything will happen anywhere from 6 months to a year from now. And I don't know. It's indefinite, and that's part of the really shitty thing about this lockdown we've got going on. Is it's indefinite in nature. It depends on the direction of the virus, and and nobody knows what the recession will result in. Because I mean, if all of a sudden nobody in the world has any money left to spend on stuff, then their spending on movies and entertainment will also go down. And if their spending on entertainment goes down, then we can have all these big budget stuff ready to go with big spending power, but they're not going to make stuff for very long if their companies are tanking. So,
yeah, no, that's a good point. Maybe the one unintended benefit of the whole world going through it is then we can find global solutions rather than just one country suffering by itself, right? So hopefully, financially speaking, I'm no economist or anything like that, but I would hope that would maybe change the kind of economic impact it has, because the whole world has to recover, not just one place, right? So the Shock Doctrine, yes. So for those of you listening to the audio version, Rob has a book by Naomi Klein called The Shock Doctrine. So discusses some of these topics.
Well, yeah, I mean, the economic policy stuff, I do find that I'm not an economist either, but I do think that regardless of what your background is as a Canadian, that we have a political duty to pay attention to stuff like this and to understand right now there are people who are taking advantage of this, right? and for personal and a private gain. So it's amazing what's constituted as essential services.
I know WWE is now apparently in Florida. They're an essential service. I'm like, what?
Building pipelines are apparently essential services.
Right.
So, I mean, you can see how one has to be careful to watch the political ramifications for all these things being pushed through in the House. Watching our neighbors to the south and seeing the borderline authoritarianism that is starting to ramp up, I would say, even more so than it was before.
Right. So,
I mean, it's a very important time to sort of be unified in condemning people who are taking advantage of the disaster.
Yeah, and that's one bit of optimism I do have. I'm trying to be optimistic as much as I can, but is the idea that when this is all done, I'm hoping the majority of people are going to understand how it's affected us and see how certain leaders acted within that and judge them accordingly. I can't guarantee that. I mean, I know the cynic in me wants to fight that notion, but hopefully enough people are going to be affected by this to really make a lot of social change when this is over. The same way that depression, when it was over, there was a lot of social change done through that, right? So
it's true.
Yeah.
But let's note that took 20 years.
It did, yes. So we're in for a long ride.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, on that wonderful optimistic note, no. So one of the things I want to do on this podcast is obviously we're talking about some pretty heavy issues sometimes, and it's going to get emotional. It's going to get thoughtful, all those things. But I do want to just kind of joke around a little bit too. I mean, we're all going through some funny things too when you think about our home lives and how we have to adjust. So I have something that I've created that I've told my last couple of guests was very scientific, and it's not. It's my own preparedness scale. It's more just a joke question kind of thing, just to kind of see what you're doing in your setting. So the first question I have is masks. Wearing a mask or no? Oh, there you go.
My wife knows how to, so thankfully.
Right.
So he's done masks.
Yeah. So for my listeners, he has a pretty wonderful mask on right now that's been homemade. That's awesome.
So most just for the grocery store thing, I think we definitely subscribe to the idea that if everybody were to wear them,
yes,
it would help.
Yes, it would. Yes, and that's very scientifically sound when it comes to what other countries are doing.
Yeah. Just precedent, right? See what happens.
What about deodorant? Deodorant, no deodorant. What do you do during the apocalypse? No deodorant. Who cares?
No.
Who cares? Shaving or no shaving? You're shaving right now. I mean, that's odd for a filmmaker.
Yeah. No, I like a clean flip face, so I'm shaving on a once every 1 or 2 week basis.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to cut it down a little bit, but then I decided to do a podcast with video involved, so now I have to shave. Well, at least I think I have to. Are you wearing pants right now?
I am today.
Okay, good. One thing I love about everybody just filming their upper half is it doesn't really matter what your bottom half looks like. And I know even some late night shows, it's like they got a suit jacket on, but they don't give a crap about their pants. They're just wearing whatever. What do you think about fashion, like apocalypse fashion? I mean, all these shows have shown us, like, you think of Mad Max or Blade Runner, all these kind of futuristic, things have gone screwy kind of shows, or Terminator's another one too. I don't think anybody's dressing like any of these things. I mean, what should we be wearing in the apocalypse? What would be your ideal fashion?
Apocalypse chic. Yeah.
Apocalypse chic.
I don't know. If it doesn't actually help you, then you're just a bit of a poser, I guess.
Right. There you go. And that's a great, I think we need to rethink our apocalyptic media now in film too, right? It's like what actually happened when everybody was locked in and couldn't go anywhere. We just all wore jogging pants and pajamas. And
that ripped leather looked really great, but you're letting all the bugs in.
Exactly. That didn't make any sense, right? So yeah, we're gonna have to change it for realism's sake. What's your streaming service of choice, and do you have any recommendations for us?
An interesting thing is we've cut down. That was part of our way of going a bit back to basics, and we're down to just Prime Video, Amazon Prime.
Oh wow!
And I have to say that I'm still stuck on the old Murder, She Wrote series. That's probably my prime escapism television show.
Right.
But
yeah, no, I love that you said that, because I know your tastes as well. They're very similar to mine sometimes, and I've definitely gotten into not fluff per se, but I'm enjoying like I'm watching The Office again, of course.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Or there's a new sitcom on Netflix called The Big Show about the Big Show wrestler and his family, and it's really cliche and really lowbrow. But I'm I don't even care. I'm just watching this with my family. It's fun. Who cares? Just let's escape for a while.
I don't know. I think the best thing I've seen in the last 6 months, if you get a chance, on Crave, I think it is, was Chernobyl. That one definitely really cinematic television.
Right.
Yeah. Johan Renck was the director on that one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about that one.
Yeah.
I still have to see it.
It'll scare you. So maybe now is not a good time.
Maybe not now.
But at least it's a different danger.
Yes, it's nothing to do with what we're going through. Yeah, I still watch Better Call Saul because it's actually active right now, and it's got one episode left in its season. And that one, again, I'm never going to be involved in a Mexican cartel, so I'm good. I can watch that one.
Season behind, that was a good one too. I think.
This season has been unreal, but I could talk about that all day. That's another podcast. What's the one thing you can't live without? And don't think family. I'm thinking like object-wise or something you have.
The one thing I can't live without. That is a good question.
Well, you have a guitar sitting in the back there. Is that?
Gets played a lot less than it looks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess the one thing I can't live without would probably be like my computer.
Okay.
That's too broad. I mean, it's sort of couldn't imagine being without that or the phone, like, and not just for mindless usage, but for everything. Like,
yes,
paperwork for like I guess I'm kind of old enough to remember back before computers, even though it was mostly my childhood. But I couldn't imagine not having a computer.
Yeah, one of the things that's come up, one of the discussions that's come up, and I don't want to derail us too much here, but is that right now it should be a human right for people to have the internet and to have access to online services, because everything is being done there right now, right? Even like a lot of stores here aren't accepting cash. They're only accepting debit. And so, yeah, sorry if you come to the store with cash, too bad. So technology is so important right now to have access to in some way or another. So I'm online making purchases all the time, and they come right to my door, and it's a little safer that way.
It's true.
What's the best music to listen to right now?
That's a good one. 9 Inch Nails just released
yes.
new Ghosts albums. I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And one's kind of like the happy album, and then one's kind of like the scary album.
Yes.
So two different mind frames for this time.
My wife wouldn't let me listen to them when I was having a massage the other day. She's a massage therapist, for those who don't know. And I was trying to put Ghosts on in the background. She's like, this is too creepy.
Yeah, Catherine won't listen to it. But it is, it's nice. I'm a big fan of Trent Reznor's piano work, right?
Yes.
A lot of quiet, ambient piano music. So that part to me is pretty good. It helps represent my feelings and stuff like that.
Right.
Also trying to stay positive and optimistic, and do that through music too.
Totally.
So
yeah.
I would say Florence and the Machine's High as Hope album has been pretty good of making me feel a little less crappy.
That's a good recommendation, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hugs or no hugs? Are we still going to hug after this?
Yeah. I think I'd rather die than not hug anybody.
Everybody's different on this. I know definitely the introverts are, telling me things like, "Oh man, it's about time." I get to have no human contact. I, don't have to touch anybody. But yeah, no, I'm a hugger.
Yeah, I crave human connection.
Yeah,
and that's
me too.
A very good way of doing it.
I've asked other people how they wash their hands. I think that question's getting a little old because, you probably, maybe you explain it to us. You tell us, how do you wash your hands?
With soap, and I try to do the like that, and then the fingertips and the nails, and then do that. I don't have my rings on. That sort of thing. I don't know if it's right or not, but I make up for quality with quantity.
Right. I'm sure it's helpful. The soap part, making the bubbles and stuff, is what I understand is the best part, right? If you kind of get that all over the virus, and then it rinses out with the bubbles or something like that. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of sanitizer that just destroys my hand.
Yeah. I only use that when I go to the grocery store for pickup, for click and collect. I'll load the groceries in and then put the sanitizer in my hand quick and then get in my car.
Are you washing? Are you
Yes.
Yeah, so are we.
My poor Amanda, and it's not that I couldn't do the washing either, but it's just kind of worked out that way that I end up watching the kids, kind of take them somewhere safe, and then she ends up sitting there for an hour washing things and bleaching and all these kinds of things. So, but we're being really, really careful the best we can. So last question on this whole survival scale thing. What's your pro tip for survival going through this? What should people be doing? Whether it's psychological, physical, anything.
That's a good question. I think
what's going to get you through this? Maybe that's the question.
Shutting off the news is a big part. I think that constant connection to constantly updating, changing, politicized information is not healthy. So limiting your exposure to news to like once a day and not getting lost in the myriad of articles that are conjecture and, just not being made for anything other than consumption. Mm-hmm. So shut off the news.
Yeah, I made a decision to do that. Actually, I deleted Facebook for a while, on my phone anyway, just because I thought there was just too much news coming across my feed. And I used to go on Facebook to scroll mindlessly and just escape for a while. And then it was like every second story people are posting this coronavirus story, that coronavirus story. And it's like, I don't need to know more about the virus anymore. I've learned so much about it. I'm taking precautions. I just kind of take an update on, or check the updates on numbers and how we're dealing with it, and that kind of stuff, right? So I'm with you on this. Okay, well, we're getting pretty close to, the wonderful thing about a podcast is there is no time limit. You can do whatever you want. So I love that, but I don't want to, go on forever. So the last question I want to ask, before I do that, actually, I have to give you your score, which is a wonderful A+. You're surviving the apocalypse. You're doing lots of good things. It's a very scientific score. I'm a social scientist, so I get mocked for science all the time by hard sciences. And this is just me adding to that fire. What's that?
You're just in denial.
I'm in denial. Yeah, I'm in denial. Do you have a message for yourself and others in the future to look back on? Because this is going to be permanent as long as the human race exists and has YouTube. It'll be on there. So, what's your message?
Look at the good happening. Savor the happy moments, and enjoy the fleeting parts of life that you don't pay attention to when you're super busy. Like, do that. What we're doing now in the future too.
Yes.
Keep up that attitude through, because I know for me this has been a sort of a very retrospective time in terms of like examining where I am in life. Am I happy with that? Where do I want to go with that? So it's made me grow, and I hope that I don't forget the motivation, but also the results of acceptance and optimism, I guess, that has made this bearable. This should still work when we're all back to normal and working again, to stay happy.
It's an excellent reminder, and that's a perfect reminder to look back on, because who knows, a few years from now we might be forgetting, and then we watch something like this and then you go, oh yeah, how did I feel back then? Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, spending some time with me there, Rob. Sure. I hope you can get back to work and finish Mighty Ducks. I was really looking forward to to seeing a Mighty Ducks TV show. It worked really well for Karate Kid. They had Cobra Kai, and I just love that show. And I'm a big Mighty Ducks fan, so I hope you get to finish that. Other than that, thanks for coming on. And we love you over here, and we hope everybody's doing well. And thanks for coming.